You're listening to GWP Live, first of its kind, at least first in a very long time. Today is Friday, January 16th, 2026. I'm your host, Isaac Hedges, joined once again by co host Jacob Fulmer. Jake, what have we got on the docket for today's live stream?
Yes, well, for our very first live stream, we are going to give you the option to call in for responses throughout our live stream. So, again, just as a reminder, our GWP phone line is 417-448-0819. So that's where you can call in if you have any stories that you would like for us to cover as far as like news, weather, and sports. If you would like us to do any of that, if you would like us to talk about that, give our opinions on that, whatever it may be, share your opinions live on the air. You can even come in live through the phone call right through our live stream as well.
Absolutely, we're going to be discussing a lot of interesting things tonight. And if you've got any input on that whatsoever, we'd love to hear what you have to say. Again, if you'd like to reach out, that number is 417-448-0819, and we'll get you on the air. So without further ado, Jake, I believe we've got a lot of interesting stuff to discuss. What are we looking at tonight?
So tonight, when we're not taking calls, we will be discussing etiquette, different forms of etiquette going into Valentine's Day. That's kind of where we're getting into that discussion.
Absolutely. So, again, very interesting topic there. And Jake, as you mentioned, that's what we will be discussing whenever we're not taking calls. Of course, if you're calling in, we'll talk about anything you like. So, again, great opportunity. Get those calls coming in. Jake?
Yes, and you can also ask questions through the live chat as well on YouTube, and we will also answer those as well. So if you're too nervous to join on a phone call live on the air with us, that's perfectly fine. Then we will listen to your questions on the live chat. And again, this can be about any current events that are currently going on.
Absolutely. So, don't want to call in? Don't sweat it. If you've got anything you'd like us to cover, just put it in the chat right here on this very live stream. So again, any input that you all might have, we would love to hear. Jake?
Yes, in fact, we're going to go ahead and test that out just to kind of give you an idea of just how this whole system works. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to place a call as a sample to show you how to do it here.
Absolutely. So in a few moments, if everything works out the way it's supposed to, we should have Jake on the line. Now, it might echo a bit because we'll have him on here twice.
So you'll have to say your name and then it'll ring here.
Absolutely. So we'll have here momentarily, and that call is incoming now. Okay. And things don't appear to be coming through quite yet. We could certainly try again. Again, if things don't seem to work there, folks, just feel free to put any questions, any topics you'd like to contribute in the chat right here on this very live stream. Let us know what you'd like to hear. So, Jake, are you calling again?
Yes.
Okay, so I believe it is coming through right here. Okay. We can try it. That's not where it's supposed to be. Here it is.
Call from
Jacob Fulmer.
Okay, we should have you on the line. Jake, can you hear me on the phone?
Yes, I can hear you. And so I have muted the speaker on my computer and have muted my microphone. And so I am hearing you exclusively through the phone call as well as anybody who is watching on the live stream. Can you hear me now that my microphone is muted?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear, my friend. So, again, a great opportunity here for any of the folks at home who wanted to be on GWP in the past. Well, now's your chance. Just call in and we'll get you right on here. So, took a little bit of trial and error, but it appears that things are finally working now. It's good to hear your voice, my friend. How are you feeling about things for tonight?
Very good. In fact, I'll go ahead and give a bit of a sample as to what sort of question somebody could potentially call in, like how this would look. Okay? And so you
Okay.
could state your name. So I could say that I'm Jacob Fulmer. So I could certainly do that. That would be one thing that you could do at the beginning. And then once you establish who you are, if you would like to, you can also tell us where you're from. If you're here in Missouri, if you're in Southwest Missouri, if you're in Central Missouri, whether you're in another state, another country, whatever the deal is, you could go ahead and let us know with that. And then really just any information, just basic information, probably name and location if you would like to share that information. If not, you can just dive into whatever question you would like to ask. And so my question is going to be particularly related to one of our topics that we covered in the news segment, which is
Okay.
what is this whole deal about this 10% credit deal? How does this affect me as someone who uses credit a lot?
How does it affect you as someone who uses credit a lot? Well, great question from caller one. Can't help but notice your voice sounds somewhat familiar. Now, in terms of this recent statement, I'm guessing what you're referring to is a recent statement from President Trump. And he made a statement, of course, for a year there's going to be a 10% limit on credit card interest. And that's the important part that some people might not have noticed. They might have only noticed the exciting part. Oh, only 10% interest on credit cards for a year. Wow, that's exciting. But again, that's the important part, only for a year. And again, so that tells you sort of right there in the name, right there in the question, what you need to know about it. Of course, that limits interest on your credit card to 10%. Many of them charge more than that. And generally, if we're looking at much more than that, like interest rates in the 20s, 30s, different things, perhaps some people out there have dealt with, my friend, well, this is going to limit that again down to 10. And sort of the reason why you would be getting higher interest rates, oftentimes the case here, and really puts this into perspective to really take a step back here. The objection is, and of course, it's important to consider the other side of this. Again, a limit to 10% on credit card interest rates sounds great for the consumer, but on the other end, for the credit card companies, how's it going to affect them? How are they responding? So the credit card companies are responding to this by saying, oh, well, that's awful. You're keeping people with bad credit. You're keeping poor people who really need credit from getting these. And unfortunately, in certain cases, it would be keeping them from this. But again, the part that they're not saying, of course, the rates at which credit is being offered to people with these poor credit scores and different things, or people who just really severely need this line of credit or think they do for whatever reason. Again, certain times we think we need things, we don't necessarily. As the case, we've seen a lot of that in recent times, but sort of the case here with that, of course, is right as we said it would be limited to 10%. And generally, when we see those higher rates, it's for that purpose for people with poor credit scores. And the companies know that in these cases, these people generally aren't going to be able to pay it back. They're going to get trapped into that vicious cycle of debt. And so, this proposed policy, this 10% interest limit on credit cards for a year, sort of jubilee on usury, if you will. Usury referring to those, in certain cases, exorbitant interest rates. This is sort of a year to help you get out of that vicious cycle. So it sort of depends as far as how that would affect you, my friend. Sort of depends on your situation, if you've had much opportunity to build credit, what your credit score looks like, just how badly you need a line of credit. But again, if you haven't, if this is something you're looking to get into, might be a good year to do that as we go into this. Again, for a year, 10% interest limit on credit cards. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and I've got just a couple of follow-up questions as well. Is that during the entire year of 2026?
Well, we haven't had a lot of detail come out on that yet. That is, it would appear, what's been suggested by President Trump. Now, what's unclear at this point as to whether that's actually going to happen, whether that policy has actually taken effect. But that's certainly the way things sound. And yes, were it to take effect, that would be for the year 2026, to my knowledge. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Yes. All right. Now, to allow for additional people to call in, I'm going to go ahead and leave this call, and I'm going to go ahead and jump back on the video here.
Absolutely. Sounds good. Well, thank you for
All right.
calling, and you have a great day. Absolutely. So, Jake, it appears that we have you back on the line after taking a call. The caller sounded suspiciously like you had a question about, interestingly, something we talked about a bit earlier today on GWP News. Again, about this recent thing proposed by President Trump, this 10% interest limit on credit cards. So it was a great question. Perhaps this fella also ought to check out GWP News.
Yes, maybe so. And so again, GWP Weekly Recap is a new series that began today and will happen periodically on Friday evenings, bringing you all of the latest information that you need to know about news, weather, and sports. We'll have you covered again. That's going to be periodically on Fridays. So.
Absolutely, and that is not to be confused with GWP News, which I did precisely moments ago for those who were listening closely. GWP News, of course, GWP News Weekly, as you might have guessed based on the name, do that weekly, cover all of the latest current events, weather, and sports, and you can find that on Mondays. Now, again, something we've just introduced today, you can find now available on the Great World Productions YouTube channel, is the GWP Weekly Recap. It's something new we're trying out, which you'll be able to find periodically on Fridays. So you can start your week off with GWP News Weekly. And on the best of weeks, where many things are happening, where there's a great deal to share, well, then we'll also do that GWP weekly recap, so you can tune in for that at the end of your week as well. A great way to send things off into your weekend. And again, to all the listeners out there, hopefully it's been a great Friday heading into your weekend. Big plans, anything you'd like to discuss or share with us, you can always call in, put it in the chat alongside this video, or you can give us a call if you'd like to do that. Number is 417-448-0819. Again, that number is 417-448-0819. We'd love to hear what you all have to say. Jake?
Yes, and if you have some input, and let's say that we're covering a local news story or that you want to talk about a local news story, go ahead and call that in as well, and we can discuss it right here on the phone. Again, as you saw, it went straight to the call. You saw me, I was calling. That was not coming through my computer. That was coming through my phone, which means that any of your phones, that audio or that phone call could come through our live stream. And so just kind of keep that in mind.
Absolutely, quite possible. Don't believe us? Give us a call and test it out. We'd love to hear from you.
or put it in the chat again. That's another way that you can ask your questions, and then we will bring those updates to you live. And if you
Absolutely.
think of something after the live stream, you can put it there, and we may even just cover it in next week's weekly news. Of course, that's going to be returning on Monday, January 19th. And the day following that will be our season 5 premiere on the podcast side of things. And that's going to be on Tuesday, January 20th at 9 p.m., the season 5 premiere. We're going to be doing a two-part series introducing the new year, new episodes coming out on both of the last two Tuesdays here in the month of January, with many more episodes to come in February, including a Friday the 13th special that you'll have to stay tuned for. Now, I believe that that transitions us into our main topic of discussion while we're not answering questions, and that, of course, is etiquette. So that's what our discussion is going to focus on next.
Absolutely, Jake. I've noticed recent times, of course, in experimenting with this new microphone system here, my etiquette may not have been the best. Of course, experimenting with different things, the new in-ear monitor system, it's a lot easier to cause interruptions than it has been in the past. And again, interrupting people when they're speaking in conversation isn't the best etiquette. So perhaps I've got a lot to learn tonight, Jake.
Yeah, I could certainly say the same. I know that we have both accidentally have talked over each other. I know that it happened at a few times here and there. And again, part of that is the fact that we are still working out this new system. So you'll have to bear with us as we test out some new technology. The year of 2026 is going to be testing out a lot of new things here, including that weekly recap that we mentioned moments ago.
That it is. That it is. Many, many more great things coming throughout 2026. And all of that, of course, beginning as we are now very early in the year, already getting into some of those great things. Of course, had your very first taste of that with our last episode of 2025, our first episode of 2026, that season 4 finale, our New Year's special. And again, just revisiting some of that and introducing some more great things to expect throughout the year. That'll be your next episode coming out here in the coming week, Jake, as you mentioned, Tuesday, January 20th at 9 o'clock p.m., isn't it?
Yes, and that'll be the start of our fifth season, which is going to run from now all the way until sometime in the middle of April. And then at the end of our season five finale will take place in the middle of April. And then that same week, we will show our third short film. So our short films are coming back here. Isaac, what do you think? Should we go ahead and not necessarily show people a preview, but give them a little bit of some insight into what that short film will look like? Do you think we're ready for that?
Oh, well, it could be quite a lot, Jake. I don't know if the folks at home are ready for it. It may just be too overwhelming. I mean, we don't want those folks. I mean, if you're in a chair, be sure to sit tight. If you're in a car, buckle in, pull over, whatever it takes. But this is going to be some really earth shattering, groundbreaking information. So you'll want to hang tight for it, Jake. And I'm not sure if we even should. It might be quite a lot. What do you think?
I think we can give a little bit of a preview.
A
Just
little
a
bit of a preview. Okay, just a taste, but it's going to be just barely a taste, just a little drop, and that'll be just enough. Certainly for the folks at home, if they're even able to handle that. I mean, frankly, I don't know that I could in that position. It's quite a lot. So Jake, what's our little drop, our little tidbit going to be of our next short film? What can we expect?
Well, it certainly is going to be the most chaotic short film that we have done up until date. So that is one thing that you can anticipate. And we want our viewers and listeners to have a little bit more insight behind the purpose of the short films, maybe just to clarify some misconceptions. And so we just want to make sure that we are very clear here. Anytime that we're doing a live update or a weekly news update, we're talking about things of more serious matters. On the podcast, of course, we do have serious discussions, but there are some unserious things that happen for comedic purposes. The short film is basically of no educational value. It is completely, purely for entertainment value. And so believing that such things are real would certainly lead to some not very good realities being thought of. And so I just want to ensure that everybody understands that the full purpose of the short films is not to mimic some sort of reality, it is to show some sort of absurdity on a fictional scale. And so I want everybody just to understand what our purposes of doing these short films have been.
Well, absolutely. Thank you for the reminder on that, Jake. I was in the process, of course, recently of reviewing some of that and had me wondering some of that it goes into such great detail. Again, the way it's produced, it's not difficult to be drawn in by it. But again, no fear is certainly looking at our past short films. We are still here. We're still alive and well, unaffected by the oh, by the unfortunate turn of events that plagued our characters in previous short films that we've done. Certainly, our very first one, as our longtime supporters, viewers, listeners out there will know, Guardian, followed by the one that we put out most recently, which has done exceedingly well, by the way. Thank you for all those that tuned in for our last short film, The Darkened Quest. Again, in terms of our name, of course, we've long been known as of course, our main offering over on the Great World Podcast. Certainly, as we changed over here in 2026 with our many offerings, of course, our short films, GWP News, the Great World Podcast, all of those, of course, fall under Great World Productions. And all along, our name has been something resembling that. One might say a fairly ambitious name. Well, thanks to you folks, all of you out there, we've actually begun finally to achieve the name, ambitious though it may be, with our most recent short film, To the Darkened Quest. We finally now have an international reach. So, again, we'd love to hear from you all out there. Certainly, any of those who might have caught The Darkened Quest, perhaps tuning in from overseas. If you like that, would like to see more of it, or anything else, again, let us know in the chat alongside this live stream. Or if you're really interested in reaching out, you just can't stand to go any longer without doing it, well, we can talk to you right now. Just give us a call, 417-448-0819. Again, that number is 417-448-0819. Thank you again. And we've appreciated that support in the past, certainly on our previous short films, and all likewise with our coming things throughout 2026, including but not limited to, Jake, as you mentioned, another short film. Again, we appreciate that support to all of you. We are eternally grateful. Jake?
Yeah, certainly so. And so now, as we go into some of the details of what you can expect for this third short film, we're going to reveal that there's only two characters. We're representing two of those characters. My character's name is Kevin, and your character's name, of course, is Ben.
Hi, yes, Ben, of course. Ben and Kevin.
Yeah, so Ben and Kevin, and the idea is that they're two construction workers who became construction workers overnight, but they're not super great at their job, and they're also FBI agents as well. They're undercover agents, and they've been trying to track down a couple of criminals that have been on the run. And guess what? Those FBI agents, they're also not very good. And then things take a very dramatic turn because, well, let's just say this, the criminals, they start to escape, and that's when all heck breaks loose, we'll just say.
Absolutely. So, a lot of crazy things in that short film coming your way from Great World Productions, so you will not want to miss it. And, Jake, of course, you mentioned we are sort of the two main actors in that, so that'll serve as any explanation if there was any confusion about that, as that film is coming out about the familiar faces. Well, let this serve as an explanation for that. And again, our characters named Ben and Kevin respectively, not to be confused with the famous ice cream men, Ben and Jerry. Jake?
Yes, certainly not. These two individuals are not as good as Ben and Jerry. They
No,
are.
our work isn't nearly as delicious.
Yeah, certainly not. I would say that, well, you'll see for yourself when you watch it, for
Absolutely.
all of you listening in here. So, again, that'll be premiering sometime in the middle of April. We will release a trailer on that uh, in the next couple of weeks, or probably sometime in February. We'll try to get a trailer out to you.
Absolutely. So the next short film coming out from Great World Productions sometime during April. Again, you'll want to stay tuned for that. And Jake, you'll have to forgive me. I don't know how it's happened. I just keep doing this. I seem to have interrupted you again. Awful etiquette. So that reminds me, I think we had some etiquette lessons or etiquette discussion to get into, and I'm sure I could benefit from that. So probably ought to get on with it, huh?
Yeah, we can go ahead and get into it. I know that I certainly need a refresher. So, obviously, when we talk about etiquette, manners, whatever you want to call it, you can kind of group those into the same category or say that they're a little bit different. Obviously, there's a few things that come into mind that I think a lot of us do, whether it's saying please or thank you or excuse me or things like that. Those are just kind of basic things that we pick up on, I would say, and just kind of do on a daily basis. Sometimes we do that without even realizing it. I know that sometimes um, just because, just because people can get in the habit so much, sometimes people say you're welcome and they're like, oh, I meant thank you. They start to switch them up just because it's out of habit to say one or the other.
Right, right. Absolutely. Certainly been noted along with a plethora of other sort of, I guess, unintended responses to thank you, you're welcome, not being the other. Certainly noticed that in public in recent times. Jake, what are some other sort of recent instances of etiquette that really show where things have gone with that in society in recent times? What comes to mind?
What comes to mind? Well, I will show you what comes to mind.
All right. Be interesting to see. Someone us the cold shoulder, perhaps to teach us a little bit of a lesson. And yes, he's on hold now, it would appear. And here things are telling us it looks like something went wrong, trying to get you back into the meeting. So hopefully we will be back with our co-host Jacob Fulmer momentarily. Unfortunately, we seem to have disconnected again. Interesting timing there. It's unclear whether or not a co-host there, Jake Fulmer, was trying to teach us a lesson in etiquette or whether this is entirely unrelated. So, folks, you'll have to be patient. Bear with us again through all of this, all of our new equipment. We try these different new things. We thank you again for your patience. We are eternally grateful for that. So, let's see what things are going on with Jake. And so now we are calling Jake. Hopefully, he will be on the line with us again momentarily. Things don't work out. It is possible that we may have to postpone this discussion between Jake and I on etiquette, of course, as we had initially scheduled for this live stream. Again, though, if nothing else, that can be an opportunity to prepare for it. Of course, unfortunately, we didn't have time to give a great deal of notice on this live stream, certainly, but if we have to postpone things, that will be the one benefit of it. So, in that scenario, you could certainly reach out. And Jake, it appears you're back with us. It appears things were connected. So, Jake, we've got to know the folks at home are dying to know. Did things just happen to disconnect there, or was that your lesson in etiquette that you were preparing us for just moments ago?
That was the lesson right there.
That was the lesson. Again, something I hadn't quite considered, but Again, quite possible, certainly, if someone's attempting to contact, attempting to reach out. Again, certainly if there's no harm in it, it's not the most cordial response, to say the least, to give the person in question the cold shoulder, Jake.
Yeah, certainly not. Yes. And so now we'll go ahead and this will just serve as a reminder that if you would like to go ahead and join in with your questions, you can call us at 417-448-0819 and we can have you live here on the air. So if you
Absolutely.
or you can always go ahead and comment in the chat, and we'll answer any questions that can be about any current news, weather, and sports. See what I did there? I abruptly changed the subject.
Absolutely, folks. And you just demonstrated sort of how that works, Jakes. That really should paint the picture for the folks at home. So don't leave us hanging. Get those calls coming in. We'd love to get you all on the lines. Again, just read off that number 417-448-0819. Again, that's 417-448-0819. Again, please, in the interest of etiquette, don't leave us hanging. It would be great to hear something. In any case, unfortunate though it may be, the show must go on. I suppose we still have things to discuss. So, moving on with our etiquette discussion, Jake, what are some other important signs or important things worth noting that we ought to do to have good etiquette? What exactly does that look like?
The next thing I think of is you could say dinner, like eating at the table type etiquette. That would probably be the next thing, just making sure that we're not eating when our mouth is full, or at least closing our mouth while we're eating. Just basic things like that can be really good as well. Using napkins, that's always a really good thing to do as well. Saying excuse me if you have to burp, just certain things like that, I think demonstrates good etiquette/manners.
You mean you don't wipe your mouth on the tablecloth?
Maybe as a kid, probably when I was 3 or 4, maybe so, but certainly wouldn't recommend it now. And
Right,
that kind of
no.
to kind of our main point in all of this, which is etiquette still important in 2026 in a more modern and relaxed society here? Is etiquette still important, or should it still exist? Isaac, any thoughts?
Absolutely, Jake. I would say simply, I would say that yes, it still is important. Many would consider it unimportant based on the sort of evidence, the signs that we've seen around us that many don't use it. They say, oh, we don't see people around us using etiquette. It must not be important any longer. But again, it would appear that to the contrary, that change in society has not come without its consequences. Again, these seemingly simple things in etiquette, even just table etiquette, things as simple as keep your legs below the table, chew with your mouth closed, don't put your elbows on the table, things like that. They serve an important role in how we contribute to society, again, how we present ourselves, how that relates to reputation and different things. And those are certainly responsibilities and duties that still exist, whether or not we neglect them. Jake?
Yes, I think so. Those are certain things that we always should remember. And I believe, so I think that's probably kind of a good way to end things here for tonight's GWP live here. Um, we'll give about
Absolutely.
1 more minute for any additional calls and messages here. So again, that's 417-448-0819.
Absolutely. So, again, if you'd still like to call in, better do that before long because time is running out for this live stream. Again, we'll have that opportunity in the future, but again, that is weekly at most. And that's not to say that will be every week. Of course, we said we do this periodically on Fridays, so it's hard saying when you'll get the next opportunity. So, any desire of calling in, want to do that now, ideally. So, as they say, speak now, call now, or forever hold your peace, or at least until our next edition of GWP Weekly Recap, whenever that may be. And I don't know, Jake, do you know? It's hard saying when we'll do that next.
Yeah, it certainly is. But I now know that we are down to our final minute here of our live stream here. So send in any last minute questions or calls that you have to add to the discussion. Or if somebody does call in the next 45 seconds, then we will extend the live stream a little bit longer to accommodate for whatever topic you have for us.
Absolutely. So even if you don't have a question in the slightest, you're just enjoying listening and you'd love to sit and hear us listening on and on and on for hours on end, well, you know how to keep us here. You got to call and let us know. Again, that number is 417 448 0819. 417 448 0819. If you want to keep us around, call, let us know, take action now. Don't miss out.
All right. We're going to go ahead, and this is the last call. Last call for any last minute questions. Last call, literally, this is the last call that you can place.
Absolutely. Last call if you want to make the last call.
Well, without any further questions, it appears we have reached the end of our live stream.
Absolutely. I reckon it has, my friend. Well, it's great to get this started again. Our first official edition, certainly, of GWP Live. So thank you all who tuned in. Again, if you've got any other questions or input, you can always do that, even if you're not able to do it in the live chat here. You can put that down in the comments below the video on playback. Again, call that same number, which we have mentioned throughout this broadcast. And if you didn't catch that, well, perhaps there's a bit of other information that you didn't catch. So run it back, rewind. You'll find that number in there. And what was it? 417 448 0819. And I believe that'll do it for tonight. So with that, we conclude this edition of GWP Live. Until next time,
I'm Jacob Fulmer.
and I'm Isaac Hedges, host of GWP Live, signing off until next time. From all of us at GWP Live and Great World Productions, good night and God bless.